Electrical vehicle charging has become a big topic in the industry, especially with the adoption rate of EVs, especially here in the United States. We've got some new aspects of how charging is going to happen, and we're going to dive into that today. My name is Paul Barron. This is TechPath. Today joining me, of course, is a company by the name of Volta, and Karen Zelmar, who is, of course, one of the people leading kind of the rollout of this whole network with Volta. So welcome to the show.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Karen, let's jump into Volta. I mean, for most people, some people might recognize Electrify America or some of those kinds of charging networks. Volta kind of takes a little different track. Explain to our viewers and listeners how it works.
Yes, we are a little bit different than the others. Volta is a data-driven charging network where we are looking to install our chargers in the places where the most people are congregating and out in public, going grocery shopping, going to the mall, and providing a charge in the places where they're already living their lives and just bringing our charging to them as opposed to trying to force the behavior that happens when you fuel a gas car. And so what we do is look for, using a lot of data and analytics, where are the places that we want to put our chargers that are going to be most beneficial for drivers. And then when we work with those site partners, if they're grocery stores or malls, we install the stations there and provide level 2 charging for free to our drivers. And then we have advertisements on our stations. There's a big 55-inch digital screen on each side of our station that we provide to our media partners, and that is how we pay for the charging and the installation for our drivers. So it's
very cool.
a media-supported business model.
Yeah, so level 2, kind of the baseline of most users out there. We talked a little bit pre-show. I drive a Tesla, so I'm going to look at, and you have one here in Miami, not too far from our studios. So we're actually, I'm going to go try it out.
Great.
There at Merrick Park. Let's talk a little bit about DC fast charging, and do you guys have some of those in your network? What's the plan on rolling out those?
Yes, so up until now, Volta has almost 100% installed level 2 charging, but we are moving fast and furiously into DC fast as well. We have a DC fast product that charges at 50 kilowatts, which is on a little bit of the lower end of the fast charging spectrum, but is absolutely a fast charge. And we've installed it at, a handful of locations and have a rich pipeline of stores and retail locations that we'll be installing there as well.
Interesting.
Yes.
So with free charging on level 2, will DC Fast be a fee-based charging, or how will that roll out? Okay.
Yes, DC Fast is a much different model. The equipment and the electricity are much more expensive, and so we will be charging mostly competitive rates to what you see from Electrify America or a Tesla or something like that. There would likely be maybe a free period where, still we want to provide that amenity that like we're providing with our level 2 network. So there might be a period of free charge, maybe free 15 minutes. But then after that, we will be charging for the charging for DC Fast.
That's going to change the dynamic up a little bit, or are you going to have the ability to identify through some of the new technology which vehicle is plugged in? In other words, would I do something like an Electrify America or a Tesla network where I've pre-registered, so you kind of know by when I plug my car in?
Right.
Kind of thing.
And we have similar, we have similar technology. I mean, it's not going to be exactly the same as a Tesla, because Tesla has a closed network where they know their own cars. You can sort of compare us more to the Android model, where we're open to all, we're more of an open model. And so, but we still have a mobile app and a way that you'll register with us. And so we will know and have your information registered with us. So we're able to more easily and conveniently transact.
From a discovery standpoint, when a EV driver rolls up onto a location, maybe didn't realize that Volta was there, how seamless is it to where I could just plug in? currently, let's say on the
The
current
current
level
level
2
two
chargers.
network. Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of knowing about our stations, one of the differentiators we think for our network is that we site our stations in front of the front door of the most popular and highly trafficked locations. And our stations are quite big, again, because we have this media screen on our stations, and you should be able to see them from quite a distance. So you should, as you're pulling up to the store, you will see the stations. Once you plug in, then right now today you pick up the connector and plug it into your car. Going forward, very soon you will be able to plug into your car, and then you'll have to open our Volta app and say start charging. Pick the charger and start charging now, which is a pretty similar behavior for most of the charging stations out there. Our competitors do a similar thing.
Yeah, with the exception of course, the supercharger network.
With the supercharger, yes, exactly.
Okay, so that's cool. I like that feature. Let's talk a little bit about the advertising model of it, because gas stations have been using this model for quite some time. I would say it's somewhat successful. Yours is quite a bit different because you're going to actually the shopping location as opposed to catching me in a place where I don't want to be. Like a gas station.
I think there's more difference than that. Yeah, I'd like to. There's quite a bit more difference than just that. So the gas station model is more of think of it as a one-to-one model where they have mostly a little video or something. I will admit I drive an electric vehicle, so I haven't been to a gas station in quite a while. But
it's weird, isn't it?
I know.
It's a weird thing. People actually stop to put fuel in their cars.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
And so there is, when I was last at a gas station, a small video screen that is showing an ad to that single person who is fueling their vehicle. Our model is very different than that. We are not targeting, the advertising on that station is not targeted at the somewhere between 4 and 8 people who are plugging in every single day at that particular station, at that particular parking spot. The advertisement is actually targeted to the hundreds and sometimes thousands of other people who are walking by our station. So you can think of it as more of an outdoor advertising placement for the public as opposed to a one-to-one media relationship, which is the gas station advertising model. So that's a fairly significant differentiation. We certainly,
it's definitely more of an outdoor billboard or
it's
small,
more of an outdoor,
digital device.
Exactly. And so that attracts a different kind of, a myriad of different advertisers. For example, one of our most successful categories of advertisers are the automakers who are coming out with new models of electric vehicles. So why not? Yeah. Look at this station and look where, and you could charge this brand new car on this station. Exactly.
I want to look like that person.
Exactly. And so that advertisement for that electric vehicle is not targeted necessarily at the person who's already bought their electric vehicle. That advertisement is targeted at everyone else who's out there. And just as an example, a couple months ago now, we ran a campaign with Chevrolet for the new model of the Chevy Bolt. They took over our entire network nationwide for 2 days just to promote the launch of their new model Chevy Bolt. And so that was a really exciting partnership for us that, on every single station in our network in the United States, we were proud to be presenting the new Chevy Bolt model, and that everybody who walked by our stations could see that.
So are you allowing ICE cars to put their stuff on your screens?
They certainly, yes. I mean, they certainly can. Right. I would say there's no reason why we wouldn't necessarily to help if somebody wanted to promote a new vehicle. Most often, it's the automakers.
It's the EV side.
Partner with us for their new EV models. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, that's the logical sense. But then again, you could get somebody that's really, unfortunately lagging in that category. All right, so let's talk about the traffic that you guys are obviously exposed to. Is there this being a device that is LCD? It's got some smart, capabilities with obviously the charging. Basically, it's a computer out there. Is there any kind of, technology or features that I've seen in some kiosk systems where they look at, proximity tracking, things of that nature to see, just like foot traffic that you're getting by a device? may not necessarily identify the person, but it identifies a human walked by. Anything like that that's given you guys back any kind of data or feedback on how many people are trafficking around your devices?
So, in terms of the technology in the station itself, that particular information we're not capturing today. We're always working on new sensors and new things. We do have some sensing, a couple things that we're doing. One is that we are looking at dynamic weather and being able to say, being able to pop up different advertising if, say, a storm is coming, or if it's a particularly sunny day, we could partner with a sunglass manufacturer who would want to advertise on our stations on a sunny day. So we do have some sensing capabilities there. We also have a campaign that we ran with an automaker that sensed the model of EV that parked in the spot. And then we were able to show different ads depending on if it was a particular category of EV or a different category of EV, and they wanted to change the messaging. So we do certainly have that ability in terms of knowing, who's walking by. There are mobile technologies that we can take advantage of to get that kind of information.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. I think that would be an excellent, especially as we see adoption continuing to rise, the potential of, a Tesla owner, they're probably going to get another EV in the family at some point, kid's car, mom's car, whatever it might be, dad's car. So there's a great opportunity there for that, for sure. Are you seeing, when you look at the advertising partners that kind of come into this outside the automotive space, do you feel like this is something that's going to work really well for like restaurants that are in the locale itself, the obvious, shopping genre that might be there? Any particular category that has shown more interest than others to maybe be on the, the Voltas?
Right. We certainly attract advertisers from across the spectrum of advertisers, of advertising categories. One particular area I can talk about is the consumer packaged goods category. Since so many of our stations are in front of grocery stores and pharmacies like Walgreens, there is a lot of interest from the consumer packaged goods companies to say, hey, here's my new product. We did a great campaign with a gluten-free noodle that we could then put in front of, healthier oriented grocery stores to say, look for our product on the shelf. So that's a really great opportunity for an advertiser who wants to have that, mind share very close to the point of purchase. So that's consumer packaged goods is a very successful category for us. But like I said, we partner with financial services, with tourism and travel, with, I don't know, name the digital category, and we certainly have run advertising in those categories.
Yeah. I like it. Let's talk about the expansion of the network itself. Adoption is growing fairly good right now, but we could see a real acceleration by 2022, mid-year to end of 2022, because of so many auto manufacturers that are dropping EVs.
New vehicles,
so, So you've got a lot more array available than just your average Tesla driver. With that happening at the pace in which it is happening, we've talked to Electrify America. They've been on this show. We've talked to several, charging networks, and we are also monitoring Tesla's build out of their own supercharger network. How fast are you guys looking to expand, and are your markets obviously focused on EV markets, but is there any plan to go on helping these cross-country or more travel potential trips versus kind of this destination scenario?
Sure. So let me start with the first part of the question. We're nothing but thrilled with the expansion that's coming, and I would say it's going to be even bigger beyond 2022. There are so many models that are coming and are going to be rolling off the production lines that we are growing as fast as we can is the answer. And we have, over 1,600 stations in the ground right now, and thousands more in our pipeline. And really, for us, it's how fast can we build is really what is is exciting, and as we see the growth of the industry, and especially even the acceleration could pick up with what's happening with the infrastructure bill that the Biden administration is proposing. Yep. And so all things look rosy and adoption forward for us. In terms of then what does that mean for where we might deploy or how we will deploy, you are absolutely right that Volta is focused much more on the destination charging than the cross-country highway charging, and that will continue. Yeah. There are many problems to solve in the EV charging space for many different types of travel that drivers will take, and at the moment, focusing on the more local charging and the daily charging has been where Volta has focused its efforts and found the most success. As we expand our DC Fast product line, we certainly could move into that more of a cross-country travel. What's most important to us is that we are matching the product and the speed of the charge to the behavior that's expected at the location where the charging is happening. We don't think you want to put a super fast charger in front of a grocery store, because then that person would have to interrupt their grocery shopping in order to come out and move their car. So we would not, but a super fast charger makes sense when you're trying to go cross country or take a day trip up into the mountains or whatever is your, longer charge need that you have. Right now, there are many trying to solve that problem, and we wish them great success, and we will be joining them at some point. But right now, for us, focusing on that destination charge has been where we're finding the most success.
Yeah, I like that. So in the perfect picture for Volta, what's the big number? Is it 100,000 chargers nationwide? What do you think?
We don't have a number in mind. I think that it's growing by the thousands as fast as we can, and we have a lot in our pipeline and a lot of exciting conversations that we're having. There is room for that and more in this country, and so it seems like a pretty open greenfield for us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting because I think there are some interesting dynamics occurring right now in terms of the shopping habits of Americans. Obviously, grocery has lifted just because of some of the scenarios that we ran through last year in eating from home and all those kind of things. Whereas in gathering at malls and things of that nature has changed, even movie theaters has changed. So it's almost, in a way, changed the landscape of where people go, to actually spend more than an hour in any one place. Even though I do see the outdoor malls really starting to explode here in South Florida. So outdoor malls are absolutely, which you're at one with Merrick Park. That's an outdoor mall.
Yes, exactly.
Those explode in terms of weekend traffic. I'm just blown away at how many people are at these things these days. So it's kind of crazy. But do you see with that kind of scenario, do you see a change in maybe the landscape of where Volta would be putting chargers in the future? Instead of a movie theater, let's go, because we're seeing less movie traffic. Would you go into maybe a fast casual, restaurant chain that has, where there's 5 restaurants and, those strip center type concepts, where there's 5 restaurants and maybe a Starbucks anchor kind of thing?
Sure. So the answer is yes to all the above. We are not writing off the movie theaters. Let's start there. And we have some great partners where we have stations in front of their theaters, and we think the movie business is coming back. So the question is what's changed permanently, and what has been some economic changes that have been happening over decades. The mall design business and sort of the real estate path of malls has been evolving before COVID and after COVID, where it is transitioning to a lot of malls are being redeveloped into mixed use or outdoor, or having more than just this single destination that's in an indoor sort of structure. And so we're excited to be partnered with the malls that we are partnered with as they go through that evolution. And so I don't think that malls are a place where people will stop going and instead somewhere else. It's just that they'll be evolving as they have been over the decades. And again, I think, so for us, it really is an all of the above answer. We want to be, our focus is making sure, as I said, using data and analytics to say, where are the people going? And that's where we want our chargers to be. We want to integrate charging into what they're already doing as opposed to the current gas station model where you have to go out of your way and interrupt your day to fuel your car. And
Yeah.
so we are using all of the intelligence that we're building to say, where else can we put our stations? And you're right, the next one may not be a movie theater or a mall, but it could be the most popular strip center that, you know, the 3 most popular local restaurants are at. We have that data,
Right.
and we will be approaching that property owner just as equally as we'll approach the next mall
Yeah.
developer. Yeah.
You know, that's something that we work on a lot here. We have a sister network that really focuses on the food side of things and where the restaurant industry is going and all that. But an interesting aspect that I've been, considering for some time is kind of this transition away from the gas pumps. So as we see adoption, it feels like the teeter-totter effect. You're going to have a point where these gas stations are essentially going to have to either be repurposed, probably dozed and reused because the habits in which people need to fuel an electric car are completely different than a gas car. So
Sure.
you're right. And I think you guys are in a good position because you do need that half an hour to 2 hour time, range to really get a good charge.
Right.
But with that potentially occurring, when do you guys see this? I mean, because if that occurs in the next 5 or 10 years, you're going to need 30 of these at a Publix.
Right.
No,
absolutely.
Because the shift is going to have happened and you're going to need that kind of scenario.
Yes.
Is that kind of in your plan to kind
It
of get
is.
to these? Yeah, okay, so really getting to a farm of these things.
Exactly. So what I would say, there's a few things. One of the parts of our strategy is what we call land and expand, because right now you don't need 30 at a Publix, but you need a couple to get started. And also, a lot of these property owners, where I live here in California, there are EVs all over, but in other parts of the country, not as much. And so we are building and expanding on the East Coast just as much as we are on the West Coast at this point. But we start with 2 or 4 because we want to start the adoption process, serve the existing need of what is there for the cars that are on the road today and what the cars are coming in the next year or so. But our intention and the way we develop our relationships with our site partners is that we want to be a long-term partner for them. And again, as I mentioned, our data, we have been building this tool that we call predictive that actually is doing exactly that, predicting with electric vehicle adoption 2 years, 5 years, 10 years out, how much more traffic could be coming to a particular site and saying, you need 10 chargers, 20 chargers to serve that future demand. And then we can work with our partners to say, we've done 2, let's come back and do 10. Let's come back and maybe augment the couple of level 2s that we put in and now augment that with some fast charging. And or we have another product that is a level 2 product that doesn't have a media screen on it, because once you get to 10 stations, you can't put all those media screens in a row.
Exactly.
Then you want to put a couple of media screens, and then just parking spot after parking spot has an additional cord. And so we are looking at all of those product and site development combinations and starting to have those conversations with our partners. Again, at the moment, most of those conversations happen more often in California where adoption is higher, but we're definitely predicting that will come with our predicting tool to be able to really give good insight and data to our partners to help them make good decisions about when to grow the charging on their properties.
Let's get into that. I want to kind of learn a little bit about how a real estate operator is, because essentially that's who you're dealing with most of the time,
Correct.
I'm assuming, unless it's a chain. How do they get involved? I mean, what's in it for them? Obviously, there's a draw, of potentially bringing affluent consumers to your place because you have these charging devices. You've got the retail side of it. Is it a revenue share? What's the business arrangement?
The value that we bring to them is that we think we bring a lot of drivers and a lot of new drivers to their stores. And we also have some anecdotal data, and we're building out our more detailed data to say that they stay longer and shop longer. And so that we're not just bringing them a customer, we're bringing them a customer who has, in the context of a grocery store, a larger basket size than an average customer, because they want to stay longer and get that charge. And so when we work with our partners, our story to them is the value of the increased business that we're bringing them. And that by putting the chargers in front of the front door and making them highly visible and easy to find, there is a benefit for them. And in addition, many of them are interested in messaging themselves or being, we don't necessarily do revenue share, but we certainly partner on, a grocery network that is involved in the marketing of their products, something called shopper marketing. We give them the ability to partner with us and capture more of that revenue that's available to them from their suppliers. So there are arrangements that we can make that they would want to, Whole Foods might want to message their, sales of the week on the station that's in front of our store, and we can partner with them to take some of the inventory on our stations and use them themselves.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So from a cost standpoint, really the cost is on you, I'm assuming, to come into the location, handle all the electrical grid requirements, the construction, all that kind of stuff. So the operator basically just has to give you a spot.
Pretty much.
Your market spot. Okay, that's it. So it's no cost to them. Is that
that's correct? That's pretty much the story. Yes.
You handle permitting and the whole thing.
Correct. Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. I'm surprised that we don't have more of these. Here, especially in South Florida, this would be an absolute, bonanza market.
And I can assure you that our site sales representative down in Florida is out there talking to as many people as she can. So she would love to hear that message, and I'll pass it along to her.
Well, all of you that are listening or watching in, here are South Florida listeners. You guys, Merrick Park, Doral. You've got all these certain communities, Weston out here in West Broward, that would just be absolute, just huge. I love that. I want to talk about dynamic weather. What exactly is that? How does that work? Tell me about that.
So I mentioned that earlier. There is now the ability to use a sensor to say, if a rainstorm is coming, there are weather data services that can tell you within a zip code that a storm is coming. And then, if there is an interested advertiser who says, I want to only show my message when something changes, exactly, we now have the ability to do that. Yeah. So it's an exciting new service that we're offering.
Too, really.
Sure. Or it could be the pollen count is high today, take your Claritin, or, however you want to look at what does weather trigger. There's a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, I like that. In the app, Volta Connect, what kind of features are you guys, I think you had something called Volta, is it Volta Connect or Mobile Connect Unlock?
I actually am not. I'm not sure. I saw that on a list somewhere from you guys. I actually don't know what that is.
Oh, okay. So the app itself, what kind of features are going to be involved in that, since you are soon going to where the app would enable the charging?
Sure.
What other kind of features would I see my kilowatt, kind of some of the kilowatt data that I get, how long it's, those kinds of data points, or is it just going to be, hey, this is how much juice you got?
Right. So the purpose of the app has a couple purposes. One of them is to find our chargers, right? So one of the biggest values of having the app is to say, I want to charge at a Volta charger. I'm here, and it's got a little map in there so you could see where's the closest Volta charger to where you're located. And then once we enable our check-ins, as we talked about, that's where you'll say, I'm here at this station. I'm ready to start charging. And we would then turn on the charge once you check in. Once we start charging for the fast charging, or now that is starting, that's also where you will set up your credit card payment, and we will be able to charge you for a particular session. And so for now, it's more about just operating the network and interacting in our network. We have much that we are planning for growth for that mobile app, where we see a lot of opportunities to partner with some of our grocery partners, for example, in their loyalty programs,
Yeah.
or there's other things that we can do to highlight our site partner relationships and help attract more business for them. And so those are some of the conversations that we're starting to have.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Any plan to do, so I think I'm thinking in the way that a consumer might think when they are going to one of these destinations.
Uh-huh.
Any plan to do like almost like a movie pass, but a charging pass where you can kind of get unlimited? You become maybe a Volta Pro member, and
Hmm.
and it always brings me back. So you get that loyalty,
Right.
aspect of it.
Right.
What are your plans going in that direction?
We are definitely looking at that, and we definitely see that what we've set up with, we offer a free charge, and over time maybe that we will have a longer free charge for someone who's in our loyalty program, or
Mm.
you get a fast charge in our loyalty program and a level 2 charge if you don't. And these are all ideas that we're throwing around right now, but certainly we see that having this multi-product network, and a pretty loyal driver base, and the excellent partners, our site partners, our commerce partners, we see a lot of opportunity in the future. So I wouldn't say that anything is imminently coming, but we're having great brainstorming sessions and plan to release things in the future.
Yeah. On the ad side of it, if
Hmm.
you're, let's just use Publix. It's a big chain down here. It's
Sure.
probably very similar to what you guys are dealing with, like a Traders or something.
Sure.
Um, in South Florida. But if I've got Voltas in my Publix, and Whole Foods says I want I want to advertise on those stations. How does that work?
Right, right. We do offer our site partners some level of I'll say control over what is
Okay.
advertised in front of their locations. If there's a particular category they find objectionable, we are open to having that
Yeah, sure.
conversation. And we certainly do not advertise competitors in front of each other. So
Okay. So
we have ways to control that to make sure that doesn't happen.
keep everybody happy in their own.
Exactly.
I'm sure there's plenty kind of going that. All right, so
Exactly.
let's talk about maintenance. Are you guys using any kind of solar, any kind of, or are you going right to the grid? What's kind of the whole process there?
Sure. So we're connecting into the electrical service on the property, or working with the utility to bring in, electrical service to the property. So it is straight to the grid. Currently, we are not working on a solar or any sort of battery storage solution. Part of that is because most of our network today is level 2, and so we're not
Hmm.
necessarily at the energy usage levels that make things like solar or battery economics positive. But we are
Yeah.
certainly heading in that direction, and exploring the technologies that are out there. But at the moment, we're definitely connecting straight into the grid.
Yeah. How long does it take to put one of these in?
Um, uh, it can vary anywhere from 3 months to 18 months.
Depending
And
on
that's the
permits.
exactly. The actual construction of a site, once everything is lined up, is 2 weeks. But the
Oh,
amount of
wow.
time it can take to walk a site, get the inspection, many, many, many other steps, it can take quite a few months. It really just
Yeah.
depends. And if you're bringing in new electrical service, then you have to add on that to your project timeline. So there's a lot of variables. But it generally, I would say on average, most of our stations are in about 6 months after we sign them.
A couple of questions here in terms of kind of the data, and also dealing with kind of the ability to kind of manage multiple charging devices. So
Hmm.
we've seen some companies come in here recently where there's some technology. This is mostly designed for the home charger for a dual car EV family,
Mm.
where you get kind of that smart charging between the cars. So one needs, you have an 80% charge car and a 40% charge car. The charger is kind of selecting smart-wise of which one to
Hmm.
charge. Do you handle any kind of that technology, or is it all juice all the time to whoever needs it at whichever station?
Right. Our level 2 network is all juice all the time. As we are moving into fast charging, we certainly will be looking toward what that's typically called load
Yeah.
balancing in the industry.
Yeah.
And so when I told you our first fast chargers are 50 kilowatts, We also can install them in such a way that if that in pairs, so that if one car is at a spot that is set up with two 50 kilowatt stations, over time they'll be able to get, a 100 kilowatt charge. We don't quite have that built in yet, but that's very clearly on our roadmap. And being able to do that kind of load balancing is really important and valuable in the charging world.
Well, and there's some companies, I mean, it seems to be, even though I think we are going to see a few companies, NeoCharge, I think, is one that has come out with a home device. Wouldn't that be cool? A little Volta home device you could just
certainly an interesting opportunity for us. Right now, we're focused in the public
load
space.
Balancing.
Yeah, we're focused in the public space right now, but you never know.
Yeah, well, with the adoption, that's the key things
that
are going for sure. All right, so L2 and DC, only ones with media screens. You have a tower version. You said that was for like if here's one media screen and then a tower. Is that how it works?
Yes, it's the expand part of the land and expand model, right? You get to a point where if we get to so many cords or connectors you want to have at a parking spot, you have to augment the media screens with non-media towers, yes.
Yeah, and these devices are basically, as far as, let's say, for instance, I'm assuming they're all connected via hardline, so straight to an internet device inside the retail business of sort. Someone's got to drive that device, or are you driving it wirelessly? How are you guys connecting?
We are connecting sometimes wirelessly and sometimes via hardwire. Hardwires are far more reliable. When you're in a garage, sometimes that wireless connection can be iffy. But we have many solutions for that problem. But everybody's reporting back to the home base, so we don't have the site host relies on us to operate the station for them, maintain the station for them, and we're doing all that from our headquarters or from our virtual networking center. There's nothing that we need to hardwire necessarily back into the site host.
I like that. And okay, so data that you're getting right now, it's it's early stage, but at some point when we get to double-digit adoption, this is going to be a very interesting data set, especially for charging away from home, because there's going to be some grid dynamics that start to change from a landscape perspective.
Absolutely.
Are you guys starting to engage with some of the power players out there in terms of the the electric companies, whether it's FP&L, out there, it's Pacific Gas and Electric, I think.
Yes, exactly.
What is the plan for kind of helping these guys out, because they're going to need kind of know these things?
Sure. And we have active relationships, and we're in conversations with the electric vehicle teams at a lot of those utilities. Specifically, we are talking to the team at FP&L and a number of the other teams around the country. Right now, I would characterize it that the utilities themselves are still learning and starting to figure out, how does this impact their grid activities. And right now, because we're in such the early stages, it's still early. It's not too much of an impact yet, but absolutely that is coming. And absolutely, I can share this because I actually used to work at Pacific Gas and Electric before coming to Volta. I know that there's a lot of planning and a lot of strategizing about how to be ready for this coming revolution. And certainly the way these chargers are interacting in the grid will be a big part of that. And so, Volta and all of the charging companies were very much a part of an ongoing industry conversation. What's most important is that drivers get the charge they need, right? And so what you want to have happen is that when you walk out of your house in the morning and you get in your car, you want a full charge. And if the utility needed you to charge a little bit less in the middle of the night because they had to balance something on their grid, great. But you, the driver, need to make sure. Otherwise, it would deter adoption if too much control was taken too soon, if that makes sense.
I completely understand.
Yeah, so I think that this is going to be a really exciting conversation to come, and it's a great problem to solve because it means that we're being successful and we're making that transition away from oil toward electricity, clean electricity as much as we can. And so I'm excited to solve those problems. I agree that they are challenges that we will be facing going forward.
Yeah, a couple of last questions here.
Yeah.
Any plans to connect out with the OEMs to kind of, put it in to the car packages? Mercedes has just recently launched with a year's worth of charging on their own network,
Uh-huh.
but adding these kind of bolt-on products that, because those being affluent customers, I would just assume it would be a natural, like, hey, when you buy a Mercedes, you get a Volta pass or something.
Right, right. Yes, we are having active conversations with a number of the automakers. Again, we've already been talking to them on the media side, right? We've already have
Sure.
a relationship,
Yeah.
Chevy Bolt. And yes, there are many more conversations to have about how other ways we can partner together, and we're having those conversations.
Okay, so last question. So you've got Electrify America, many other charging networks, Blink down here in South Florida.
Sure,
None of them have gone the direction of doing displays.
sure.
Why, how did they miss this?
I can't speak for them. What I can say is that our founder started the business this way over a decade ago. He saw that
Yeah.
his vision was that the charging shouldn't be in the corner in the back. It should be in
Right.
front and beautiful and has an attractive quality to it to get people to want to buy electric vehicles. And it's how he designed the business from the beginning. I find it I find it a very unique and attractive model. It's complicated, and so it's not like anybody else could just pick it up and turn it on. You
Yeah.
can't just put a TV screen next to a charger and say that you're doing what Volta is doing, right? It has taken us a long time to build our expertise and build the integrated nature of our service. And so we're pretty excited about it. And, if others are looking at it and saying, gosh, that's a great idea, we're happy to hear it. But the charging industry has a lot of different business models, and hopefully many of them are successful. Just maybe Volta
Yeah.
more than others.
Well, out-of-home advertising is it's a massive
Absolutely.
market.
Yeah.
It's been out there for decades, and it just seems now that we are moving toward a kind of a new, landscape of where out-of-home is going to be done.
Absolutely.
And
Out of home is
yeah.
really, you would think it's something that has, to your point, been around for a long time and sort of is what it is, but it's going through it's very dynamic. It's going through a lot of evolution, and especially moving toward what's called digital out of home, which is more of the category that we live in,
Right,
is a
right.
rapidly expanding part of the advertising industry. So we're very excited to be a part of it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Karen Zelmar with Volta, great to have you on the show. Thanks
Thanks
so
so
much. I'm going
much.
to check back and see where you guys are for sure. I want to
Please do.
see some more of these. I'm going to go check the one out at Merrick.
Yeah, go charge at Merrick this weekend. Great to meet you, Paul.
Yeah, great to meet you. Thanks for stopping in.
Bye.
All right, so all of you maybe are tuned in over on the podcast. Make sure and give us a rating. You can also subscribe over there and listen to the audio version of this show. If you are here on YouTube, make sure and subscribe, hit the bell. It's how you're going to get great content from us all the time, in terms of everything from EV drops, AI, autonomy, technology, you name it. TechPath is really diving deep into a lot of these topics. If you have an idea for a show, make sure and reach out to our producers. You can just send us an email to producer@revernetworks.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll get you next time right here on TechPath.